this episode, we will explore critical emerging sustainability concerns for boards over the next 1 to 2 years, and how they can address, prepare, and lead the way.
Well, first of all, join a chapter. If you're not already a member of one of the regional chapters of the Climate Governance Initiative, that is my first recommendation. And secondly, stay curious about this issue. It's a fast-moving one. It's something that we all need to be humble about. And I think coming into the board, cultivating an open-minded sort of culture in the boardroom, I think is incredibly important as we think about this transition as just that, as managing change, really. So keeping a very open mind, I think, is critical. And then I think it's also about, again, moving from thinking about this as a transactional question to one which could potentially have a systemic impact. So it's really thinking bigger than just your own organization, but also what impact can our decisions have on some of the key stakeholders on our value chains.
If I look to the future, I expect a continued attention for mitigation and the right, hopefully harmonized reporting of that. That's one. Secondly, I expect much more attention than today on adaptation, because we are not at the Paris Treaty trajectory. We will not be totally below 1.5 degrees, so we will have to deal with climate change. Also, I don't throw the towel in the ring. I think we need to continue with mitigation, but in parallel working on adaptation as well. The third topic is climate finance. All those things need to be financed, and therefore, as I mentioned before, carbon pricing, both the compliance market and a voluntary carbon market, could be a very good tool to finance the transitions, because we need to think not only about the transition itself, but also how to finance it. And this triggers a further stronger private-public collaboration. Yeah, and the last thing I want to mention, which I think will become higher on the agenda, is nature itself, is biodiversity, is integrity, but also the just transition.
I think maybe three topics. Number one, I think they should very much make sure that they have a proper reporting in their company in place. So I think what we have now is, as a biggest change, you don't look into ESG relevant data once a year. It is becoming more of a continued quarterly reporting, and it should be ultimately baked into your ERP systems to just have the data availability just throughout the year, and not only, as said, 2 months after your balance sheet date. So that's a very classical administrative housekeeping, but it's important because many corporates don't have that yet for natural reasons. Number two, I think you need to really understand how does it all affect my business model, and where are maybe, especially on the customer side, whether you have corporate customers or institutional customers or maybe private customers, what and how do the needs of customers change? What do they need in the next years? Maybe they need solutions for their own carbon dioxide emission reduction, or maybe they have some research and development going on which brings them into different activities. Maybe they need different things from our company. So I think that's a super important topic, because ultimately that will drive your sales possibilities and your revenues dramatically. And then obviously, also you need to understand, what about your people? You have talent, hopefully, in your corporation. What does change there? Do you need different talent with different capabilities, different expertise? Same as you need it in the board, you probably need it also in the group of your employees. And last but definitely not least, what changes in the life of your employees, your talent?
2 words: catch up. Catch up with the rest of the world. and do it quickly and efficiently. Waste no time whatsoever. So it is astounding to me that companies headquartered in the United States that nevertheless have products and physical facilities around the world are not looking to Europe and other places and saying, well, my goodness sakes, why are we not doing this same exact thing in the United States?
Well, in terms of what's coming next, I do think there will be a lot more focus on nature, a lot more focus on biodiversity, and we need a lot of education on that, because that is, again, sort of very much emerging. And, I think getting up to speed in terms of, what should we be focusing on there, I think is important. At the more nitty gritty level, like what we already talked about in terms of regulation, like that's going to be a lot of work and a lot of focus in the next little while. We've got a couple of years, but as I said, we need systems, processes, technology to make sure that we're producing timely but accurate information, and there's work to be done on that. So like when you're making investments, we have capital allocation frameworks for many organizations, and building in sort of the cost of decarbonization, emissions, etc., should be very clearly part of that capital allocation decisions. But even then, we need to make investments that meet our hurdles. That's why we have the stewardship roles that we do. We have to meet the expectations of our investors, and one of the main ways of doing that is to make good investments that provide the right returns while thinking about the costs of basically reducing our impact on the earth.
I think that doing really good transition planning that caters for resilience and net zero, and embraces nature and water and a just approach, that we've got a great opportunity here, because we're looking at those different interdependent aspects of environment and community and society. And we're looking at it just at the point where companies are really just beginning to start to get to grips with their transition plans. So actually, a really important part of this is being able to share good practice, learn. We produce in our network, and it's all published on our websites, both the Chapter 01 and the CGI one, lots of briefings for boards, which are not the whole report, but they're the bits that are important that the board directors need to have. We've got these toolkits which cover a lot of the things that I've been discussing today. A lot of the aspects of how committees should work, how you do your planning, how you assess where your board is on the journey, and then that leads to, well, if we're not in a very good place on that particular aspect, then there are all these briefings and extra information we can look at to help us